Welcome to the Growth Room with David Daniels. Today, we're incredibly fortunate to have Dr. Asha Sarode, the visionary founder of Uniquity Consultants. Asha, with her University of Chicago Booth School of Business MBA, is a lauded management consultant who has a passion for helping leaders unlock employee value by embracing every individual's unique potential. Today, we'll be diving into her unparalleled approach to management consulting and exploring the significant trends she's observing in the industry. Asha, it's a pleasure to have you. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Can you share a bit about your background and your role at Uniquity?
Yeah. So I actually started as an attorney. So that was my first role. But I have had experience working in tech as well as healthcare. And I've worked with executive management teams to work on their strategy as well as their culture. So I've kind of seen different industries. I've had a chance to see how management works in those industries. And that kind of led me down the path towards Uniquity because I kind of got to that point in my own career where I felt like I had so much potential to offer, and I just couldn't get my managers or the people in the room to see what I could offer, right? And I realized that was not a me problem. That's a problem across the board in every industry for many people. And
Right.
so I decided to found Uniquity Consulting because I realized that there is this problem with how we see ourselves versus how others see us. And I felt like I got hired for all of these amazing qualities I had and then was kind of put into a little box and told to stay there, right? Like a lot of us are.
Right.
But then when I was managing a team of 20 people of my own, I asked for upward feedback and I realized I was doing the same thing. So,
Right.
um, we're not perfect, but also it's the way we've been trained to
Right.
manage people that then kind of produces that atmosphere. So I took a step back and I said, how do we solve this problem of people can't see us for the way we wish to be seen? So I did some interviews with individuals, friends, family, and coworkers, asking them about their work experiences. I also did some self-exploration. And out of all of that, I realized there was a lot about our personal experiences, our personal values, our personal interests that is missing from the workplace. And that is a treasure trove of information that managers can use to motivate people. And if we figure out how to access that, which is what Uniquity is all about, is how do you access all that detailed information about a person and how do you then use it to help motivate people, not only for the business and for productivity, but for the individual themselves.
No
So,
doubt. No
yeah.
doubt. No doubt. That is very good. Tell me, what does a typical day look like for you?
Typical day is I have a very strong routine in the morning because I'm working mostly on my own. So I'm up at 7, I'm meditating or doing yoga,
Right.
gotta take the dog out. But then it is a combination of figuring out, sometimes it's what fire is burning, right? So if it's business development, if it's marketing, usually marketing is not a fire. Business development might be. And other times it is you're kind of in response mode a lot of times, I think,
Right.
as an entrepreneur. So you're responding to things, and then when you get a second, usually at the end of the day, is when I start to think strategically about how I'm going to plan what my next steps are, whether that's a new collaboration, whether that's a new, training, thinking about writing a book, all those things, those come later in the day. The practical
Right.
stuff comes during the day. So, and then the wind down at night, I try to go to bed early because that is, if you don't have that, if you don't have the sleep, the exercise, and the routine, it all kind of falls apart pretty quickly. So,
No doubt, no doubt. I'm hearing a lot of that lately. A lot of early risers and people who try to go to bed as early as possible. But like you said, towards the end of that day, the brainstorming of how to push the business forward and what to do next is
mhm.
something that is almost it's it's almost unique to founders and CEOs. It seems to me. A lot of people seem to do the same exact thing. So. What major shifts are you seeing in the business consulting industry right now, would you say?
Um, I think there's a lot of people who are moving into the consulting space, right? They're moving into entrepreneurship, not always in consulting. I mean, some people are, starting different businesses of their own in various industries, but I think the general trend is people are frustrated with the large corporate atmosphere. It's not reliable like it used to
Right.
be.
Right.
And there's no, I can stay here for 10 years. You're lucky if you get 6 months to a year.
That's
Right?
it.
And so if there's no predictability, that used to be what attracted people, I think, right? It was like, hey, I
Right.
have the stability of this job that's giving me a salary every month, or sorry, every year. I know when I'm getting paid. And that stability was the draw, even if you didn't have the upside of potentially making a lot of money, it
Right.
was still worth it. And now I feel like that is kind of disappearing. So a lot of people are considering consulting as an option, right? It's starting to say like, hey, if I'm going to do all this work, I might as well do it for myself because the risk now it seems just as risky to start your own thing as it is to stay in a company. So why not give it a try, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's also that, once upon a time, I don't even think it was in my lifetime. I think it was before, but once upon a time, there was this idea that your company took care of you.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think that is also has almost disappeared where they don't feel like the company's taking care of them. So they don't feel the loyalty to stay either. And so that has also kind of converted people's mindset to like, why not try this? Why not give it a shot and see if I can, you know, do things on my own?
No doubt. No doubt.
So.
How's that influx of various competitors, if you will? How's that impacted your business at all, your growth strategy at all?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're trying to, go out on your own, you have to differentiate. So that's the key is like, where do you sit in the landscape of all the other people who are trying to do something similar? And I think that's the key is I talk about this like when I talk about entrepreneurship in general. A lot of people are like, well, I want to start a business. What should I start? And I think that's the wrong way to think about it is like if you have something that you know is unique and is special that you have to offer, then you're the ideal candidate to go start your own business, right? Then it's very easy to position yourself because you're already doing something that other people aren't doing, right? That is literally what you know you had before you decided to start a business. Um, one of the things I say is like when I was in business school, I found it so comical how many students were like, I want to be part of a startup. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, what's your idea? They're like, oh, I don't have an idea. I just want to be part of a startup. And I was like, okay. I'm like, you got to start with the idea. So, and to me, when you're thinking about the competitive landscape, the question is like, do you have something unique and valuable to offer? And you have to lead with that, right? It's kind of stating the obvious, but I think a lot of people get into consulting being like, I have a skill set and I know I do this well at my job, but they can't differentiate themselves in the marketplace to say, well, how am I different? Like I'm a coach. There's a bunch of coaches out there. How are you a different kind of coach, right? Like what do you do differently? So to me, that I think is the most essential piece that is also the hardest thing to do. And then there's the reach as well, right? So you can have the best business or the best product in the world, but if no one knows about it, it doesn't matter. So how do you get that reach? And I think that part is very hard for entrepreneurs, just trying to figure out how do you get to the right audience, right? Because you can also be putting all of this stuff out there and the wrong people are seeing it. And then
Right.
you feel like you don't have a business, but you very well may. You're just selling, you're selling golf balls to a tennis player, right?
There it
So
is.
it's like doesn't make sense. So
No
yeah.
doubt, no doubt. With that in mind, what's working well for you as far as differentiating yourself or in finding the right people, that you can help, and what's been frustrating by chance?
Yeah, I think, I still feel like I'm at the beginning stages of my business. And so from that perspective, you're told like say yes, right? So when you're given opportunities to collaborate or to, speak, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But I think one of the lessons that I have learned is you really have to be strategic about where you're putting your energy, right? So it might be, you might meet some great people. Like I don't have regrets about the decisions that I've made, but I've learned from them and I've learned like, hey, if I'm taking this speaking event, is it to an audience that's actually going to buy from me?
Right,
You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes you tend not to think about those things because you've built a relationship with someone who's like, hey, I have this great opportunity for you. And you're like, okay, great, let me get out there, and it seems like a great idea, but then you just spent a bunch of hours doing something that doesn't lead to any, any sales. And so you have to kind of be strategic about that. At the same time, I think knowing where my personal strengths are, like, so I don't like the push strategy, which is traditional sales, where you're like, getting the leads and calling and calling and calling. I prefer a pull strategy. I'm a relationships person, so I prefer speaking events and I prefer building relationships and having people say, "Hey, I like what you're doing. Talk to so and so." And it takes more time, but
Right.
it's what lights me up. The other side drains me. So I'm like, if that's something I can keep doing, it's a little bit slower, but that is the way I'd prefer to kind of operate. And so knowing also that, I've recently discovered that I have speaking skills that are actually, it's one of those things where you kind of think you have, but then once people start saying it a few times, you're like, all right, okay, maybe it's there. So you got to
Right.
listen to that, right? Listen to when people are like, I have a colleague actually, she's also an entrepreneur. And I think four or five people told her, like, you have amazing parenting skills. And she's like, I keep hearing that. And I'm like, you do. I feel the same way. And I'm like, you
Wow.
got to do something with that. She works in the play and the creativity space. I'm like, it's not a coincidence. I'm like, pull that in, use that strength somehow. And so I think there's an element of that as well. Is how do you use your personal strength to build business? Because that's part of your uniqueness, not only like, what your unique strategy is for solving a problem, but also how you uniquely deliver it, right?
No
And
doubt.
what's special about you, because especially as a consultant, you're selling you. You're not necessarily selling, you're not just selling a product, right?
That's it.
So,
That's it. That's it. With the business, what metrics are you most focused on improving right now in 2026?
I mean, isn't every consultant focused on sales? So, I mean, that's always going to be the key, but I think um more proof points. I think that's important because, like I said, I'm still kind of ramping up, and I think it's
Mhm.
important that when you talk to a customer, you have the proof points
Right.
because they may love you, they may love your ideas, but it's always a risk for them to say yes unless they have that security that someone else has tried it, someone else can vouch for you.
Right.
Um, and so I think getting more of those proof points and potentially even do more pilots, I think is worth it. So there's that piece, and there's also just working on personal leads. So warm leads with connections, which is hard to do, if I'm being
Right.
honest, right? Because you don't want to destroy a
Right.
relationship by
That's
trying
it.
to make a sale. So there's that piece, but kind of trying to be honest and know that you have something valuable to sell and work on those offers that people have made to put you in touch with people. So yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Mhm.
It'll work out, I'm sure. If you had a magic wand right now to fix just one thing in business that's slowing you down at all, what would that be?
Oh God, if I could have a magic wand, I think one
Clone
thing
yourself.
that I will say that I actually really love AI. I think AI has been a game changer for me in that
Right.
sense. I'm able to do so much more than ever before. But if I could wave a magic wand, it would actually be uh I'm frustrated with social media and your reach, right? Because they control your reach and you
Right.
always have to pay to get
Right.
reach, right?
This is
And
true.
so if I could wave a magic wand, it would be like, can the voice that's the most interesting actually win instead of whoever pays for it?
Right.
And that is frustrating because you can do it organically, but from what I've seen, it takes several years to build that voice and to build that following. Um, Whereas, I mean, you can pay for it and you can get there faster, but it's just frustrating that that's our system right
Yeah,
now, I think.
it's what it is, no doubt,
Yes.
no doubt. All right, last question. Where do you want Iniquity Consulting to be in the next 6 to 12 months from now?
Um, 6 to 12 months, I am, so this might be a question that I'm not as comfortable answering because I'm still figuring that out. So you can decide whether to keep this or cut this one.
All right,
But
go ahead.
Um, I am right now really working on testing my ability to gain clients by speaking more than, like I said, doing that pull strategy versus that push.
Okay.
And so for me, it's to see how effective that strategy is.
Right.
And, in parallel, work my warm leads and do that as well. But I'm really trying to see in the next, because it takes 12 months to get a speaking event, right? So you apply and then it takes another 6. So it's for me, it's to see, where I can get in terms of acquisitions. I mean, how many clients I can acquire using
Right.
that strategy.
Okay.
And I don't have a goal in mind because I don't know if the strategy is going to work yet. But if it does, I'm hoping to get, another 10, because I'm boutique in terms of how I look at myself. Like I'm not
Oh,
looking to scale, scale, scale. I want a lifestyle business, and I'd rather provide quality services to a smaller number of customers than to, replicate myself and sell my strategy to a million people. That's not where I'm going. I
no,
I, I like the personal touch. So
no doubt, no doubt,
yeah,
no doubt. Well, Asha, all the luck to you in the future. I'm sure you're going to do great. Thank you for sharing your insights. It was very helpful for the audience that we serve. And just thanks for being here. I appreciate
yeah. Thank you.
it. All right.